So thanks, everyone, for coming tonight. Before we get started, I want to make a little bit of an announcement. I want to make sure we leave the doors clear. Bathrooms are up the stairs and down the hall. I see there's a lot of people here. I'm sure people want to speak. I'm hoping we keep it respectful and there's no disruptions, and we'll move on with the meeting, and we'll get to the portion of the meeting that I think y'all want to get to. So we can get started with,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we accept the December 5th regular meeting minutes as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm abstaining from that.
Okay. Motion passes with one abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the minutes for the December 12th, 2024 special meeting as circulated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion passes with one abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we pass paying the bills, $49,267.06.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So on to committee reports. Item A, Secretary's report.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a leave of absence request from Andrew Phillips that we'll be voting on later. I also have a letter from the chief about hiring in advance of upcoming vacancies. And third, I have an FOI request from a citizen of the town.
Okay. Thank you. Item B, Chief's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. How's that working? The department has seen some significant increase in activity recently, notably 2 significant fires requiring extensive mutual aid assistance, one on 28 Aircraft Road with 2 civilians being rescued from a 3rd floor. The other on the morning after Christmas on Howard Ave. All personnel on both scenes, both Southington and mutual aid partners, worked admirably under challenging conditions. The fire department has had other fire responses as well, including fire on Center Street, issue with the YMCA gymnasium. I apologize, I do speak fast. And another a fire involving combustible metals and dust at Yard Metals. Following the fire at Howard Ave, the department cannot stress enough the importance of all occupancies having working smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. The department does have a community risk reduction program consisting of voluntary home safety inspections and/or installation and inspection of battery-powered smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. These can be scheduled with our administrative assistant, as well as any other administrative questions or inquiries can be directed to our main administrative phone number of 860-621-3202, extension 8100 or 8133. Just an update on some membership. 2 members from Company 1 have completed Firefighter 1 and are now interior qualified firefighters. Additionally, another member from Company 1 who joined the department already having Firefighter 1 has completed the probationary program and is interior qualified as well. We have 7 new additional volunteers, both from Company 1 and Company 2, starting a combined Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2 program in Wolcott this spring. That'll run from middle of February towards the end of June. They're actually combining both programs. It could be a little bit more expeditious for us in terms of training. And we've lost my place, I apologize. We have the likelihood of addition of another volunteer as well. Just this week alone, we've received 3 applications for volunteer firefighters. Conversely, we've had 6 volunteers leave the department, either resign or retire since July, and as you are going to vote on tonight, one has recently requested a 1-year leave of absence. Community services pieces, the YMCA annual Polar Plunge is scheduled for February 22nd. Company One will be providing a standby crew as they have done for years. And I will get to that under old business as well for this last piece. As requested by the board, we reviewed our operating budget a little closer with respect to the overtime line item. We are able to trim a little more off in primarily non-contractual areas such as work detail assignments, and that should have little impact on department operations going forward. And that is my report, sir.
Thank you. Item C, Assistant Chief's Report.
Good evening and Happy New Year. For our fire marshal's report for the month of December 2024, there were 58 fire marshal inspections, 3 CRR home inspections, 251 reports to the state fire marshal. There were $589,500 in damage to property, $35,000 in damage to property, other properties, and $624,500 in total damages. The December 2024 incident summary has been provided to you tonight. And then moving on to the training report for the fourth quarter. Year-end totals for the training division will be 6,457 training events for a total of 15,430 hours of training. Certification programs included Firefighter 1 and 2, EMT, Recruit Firefighter, and our grant-funded aerial operator program. There's been an improvement to the driver training programs created for Tanker 2 and both aerial devices. Current training programs are working well and are well received by our members. Minor enhancements are always ongoing. New programs have been developed and will be implemented for the 2025 year, including officer development and technical rescue disciplines. And the fourth quarter training report was in your packets. The 2024 annual training report was provided also tonight. And then the safety committee for the fourth quarter of 24, the committee met on December 16th. And the committee is researching some additional safety features for our 2 UTVs. And they're working on updating the station fitness equipment with a plan. And their next meeting is scheduled for February 10th, 2025. That is all I have, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to old business.
Yes, sir. How would you like to proceed with this? Do you want to, we had the discussion last meeting in the budget workshop, and I don't know if we still want to go line by line, or you just want to?
Well, I think basically I just want to address where we were able to, kind of put a fine point on whatever line items. I believe it's really just the overtime with maybe a few other small things.
Yeah, so in regards to the overtime, that was pretty much where the pencil got sharpened. I was originally requesting about 40 work detail assignments. That's to bring in op members in off duty to handle certain things like our dispatch liaisons and certain work projects, our apparatus committees as well. So I've trimmed that down by 10 individual incidents as well. I did take out, we initially had a plan in there for rope training, for a 4-hour rope training drill. Most of the on-duty shifts are doing that on duty, so we were able to accomplish those tasks on duty, so we removed that as well. Of course, we'll continue to monitor that, especially on the training piece of it. And then lastly, CPR recertification. We no longer pay overtime for that as well. That is done in-house. We actually partner with the health department as well as our deputy chief of training and our executive assistant are also CPR instructors. So we're able to bring that in-house and be able to trim that line item a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the chief on this, or?
So if you remember, the initial proposal was a 1.77% increase over last year. A lot of, and we were able to get that down to just under 1% at 0.95%. It's about as bare bones as I can get it.
Yeah, so I just want to say that I appreciate the effort. I think going forward with the additional personnel that we're going to recommend adding, putting this budget forward is going to help us achieve some other goals that we have with the department. Item B is program additions.
Again, program additions, no changes to the list, sir. The first is the addition of 4 additional firefighters, to place 1 additional firefighter on each shift. You see the overall cost, their impact in terms of one-time cost for training. The Connecticut Fire Academy at almost about $8,000 a head on a new turnout gear. So those are one-time costs. but the additional salary and benefit piece equates to just under $400,000. It's $394,727 for that recommendation. And lastly is the addition of a firefighter inspector. We have dual role firefighter inspectors. They primarily maintain most of their role in the inspection bureau, doing plan reviews, code enforcement, fire investigations, et cetera. We're looking at a cost of that for the increased salary and benefits piece at about $156,934. But as I did mention in that piece, we do have a fee review schedule. That's an ordinance in town, and we collect revenue on that. So as of 2 days ago, or 3 days ago on the 30th, that increased, that revenue income was just under $110,000. So I mean, there is a potential offset there, but that's a budget piece that's out of my hands and out of ours specifically. So then that goes downtown. So
Yeah. Anybody have any questions on the program additions? Chief, can you explain how the SAFER grant works? Give a basic overview for the people in a room that don't understand how it works or aren't familiar with it.
I can give you a historical perspective. The notice of funding opportunity for the next round has not come out yet. I don't anticipate it to change. However, the SAFER grant is a program. It's been changing continuously since I've been involved with the grant writing. Currently, it provides salary and benefits for the awarded amount of people, whoever you put it in for 3 years at 100%. Before it used to be tiered, the town would have to pick up portions of it year after year. I would say historically, I would say 2012, it was a 5-year program and it was a tiered down requirement. Now it's 3 years at 100%, again, for both salaries and benefits for that position. We anticipate the grant award or grant application to open up around February, maybe March. It's the typical timeline. Awards have to be announced by September 30th. That's the end of the federal fiscal year. So if you look at how we were successful in 21-22, we were awarded in August. We were able to get personnel on board, interviewed and trained into the academy, where they were on board about a month ahead before the academy, and into the academy that spring. And they were on board and in service, let's call it 18 months from the date of application. One thing I will state about the SAFER grant is it's not a guarantee. I know there's other fire professionals in this room that have applied and looked at it as well. So again, it's a gamble, but I think it's a gamble it's worth taking on our end.
And we have had success in the past.
We've actually been awarded 3 in the past. We've only accepted the most recent one. Won't get into that history of that, but we were awarded in 2012 and 2018 for the same request we had in 2021-22. So we have very talented individuals that help craft our grants. We've been very, very successful in the grant world. I'm hopeful that if this is a path that the commission and the town want to take, then we'll have continued success with it. But
And so the plan is the SAFER grant will be for 3 individuals, and the town will commit to 1 individual.
yes, that would be my preferred. To put it, if anybody doesn't know me, I'm pretty blunt. Just basically to show the town's got a little skin in the game, that we are also investing. Obviously, the town, off the last grant, projected forward to keep those personnel as well. So they have skin in the game from the get-go, but it does read better in the application process, is my opinion.
So in your experience, that increases our odds of receiving the grant?
It looks better to the peer reviewers as being sitting on a peer review panels in the past. When the town shows a commitment to help address its own needs and not just relying on the federal government, it reads better, yes.
So there's been some concern out there that when the 3-year period that the SAFER grant covers is over, that, there's a possibility of these individuals being laid off. In your experience, have you seen that?
Not here in town. Working with the previous fire chief as well as the previous town manager, we were able to, and the town council and board of finance, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them, able to plan forward to maintain those positions after the federal funding elapsed. So
Right. And so it's my impression that as soon as we hire these people, we start funding them. And even though their compensation is subsidized by the grant, we put that money in contingency on the town side.
I believe that's the process that they do. They put a
So
contingency of the money.
from day one, we start funding these employees.
Yes,
And-
about
and-
about every quarter I request through the federal reimbursement.
Right.
Get the information from payroll and get that
Right.
back, and that goes into whatever their revenue
And
stream
over the
is.
course of the first 3 years of employment, the town is putting money in contingency to help carry their employment forward.
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, that's how it's
Okay.
it's structured.
Okay, so that's what we do to keep from running into this fiscal cliff that people talk about, or the concern that we'll get the money from the federal government and then we won't be able to fund it. So that's how that basically works.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Any other
Yeah, I have
questions? Sure.
Once we, if we get a SAFER grant for 3 firefighters and we're in that 3-year period, does that mean we are locked out from applying again? Should our needs?
I wouldn't say it's locked out, but I looked at this previously, and in talking to people in the grant directorate, it's not recommended. It's recommended you successfully complete the one grant program, and if you have additional needs, then reapply instead of running them concurrently. That was the recommendation from the staff that I in contact with.
Okay, any other questions? So next item, Board of Fire Commission comments and communications. Anyone?
I just want to say, in regard to the Recruitment and Retention Committee, that I spoke with Barbara Coleman Heckler from Southington Chamber, and we're going to start working together with the Chamber to bring in the business community. So she wants to go into more detail, and we suggested she attend a committee meeting of the Recruitment and Retention to go through and put together an action plan. But she was excited and said the business community supports the firefighters and they want to be involved.
Anyone else? So I have a general statement, and, whoever here is familiar with the local social media, I put out a statement on social media, and I just kind of wanted to go over that for anyone who didn't see it, who isn't, who doesn't use social media or isn't interested in it. As the chair, I made a general statement with basically what our position is as a commission. And this is basically the statement. I want to let all interested parties know that the commission does not, has not, and will not support the reduction of staffing or services of the Southington PD, Fire Department, I'm sorry. The commission remains steadfast in support of our department, is committed to our mission of providing the tools and resources needed for the continued success of the department. The commission, with its former chairman, has been planning for 6 months or more to add staffing. And part of that is this SAFER grant and gaining approval to ask for the SAFER grant. Not really gaining approval, but support. We want to know what people think and how to go about adding the needed staff. We collaborate with the chief. The chief collaborates with his people, and we recognize a need. So, as the new chair, I plan to continue our mission. We have a proposal in place to hire 4 firefighters using the SAFER grant, as the chief said. 3 will be paid by the grant, and 1 will be paid completely by the town. That is the recommendation we're going to send forward from this commission. We've received approval for the early hire of 2 firefighters to take care of gaps that'll be created by people who are planned to retire this year. So we have the communication of the we've communicated with the town manager, and we have his support to go ahead and get some early hires in so that the transition will be seamless and we'll have the people, you know, moved along in the process so that we can fill the gaps that happen when people retire. The budget we're proposing, as the chief said, there's no cuts in the budget. You know, there's a slight increase over last year's spending. If you go line by line, the salary line item and the overtime line items have either been slightly increased or have stayed level. So there's no cut there. We're committed to public safety. This commission is committed to public safety. That's why we're here. That's why we're involved. We're thankful to our first responders for their service and, you know, all the service they provide. And that's really all I have. Next item is new business. Item A is action on the operating budget.
Can I make a motion?
I make a motion, like, is it this one here?
Let's see.
That's the program edition,
Yeah, it's in-
the bright yellow one.
This is up.
Yeah, so,
and does this one have this in it?
okay, so that's a valid question. The operating budget that you put forward, does it have provisions for all 5 of the program additions?
It does not. So historically, the operating budget goes through as a main level maintaining the service. The program additions are a separate submission
Okay.
to the town manager's office, and if it's approved from town manager, board of finance, and town council, then that gets adjusted in our bottom line number.
Okay.
So we maintain our existing services, and that gets in
All right.
separately, because
So if I was-
it could possibly go to, pass through the board and go to the town manager, et cetera, and not be included in the town's budget. So that's why we do it separately.
Okay, thank you.
So, if we make a motion to accept this,
Yes,
is this included in this? You said no.
it is not, no.
So how do we make a motion?
So you make a motion on the operating budget as presented, and then you make a motion to accept the program additions.
Okay.
That's your next
Perfect. Then I
action.
make a motion to accept the operating budget as presented.
Do we have a second? Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Do you want to use a number for your motion?
In the amount of, so many numbers here.
5,000,008.
585,585,927?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot of numbers on there. I want to make sure I have the right number.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can we do a roll call vote?
Your meeting, sir.
Ms. Roy? Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up is action on program additions.
So I make a motion to accept the program additions in the amount of $394,727.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
I got just a quick,
Amend the motion?
just a quick question, and just procedural. So the plan is to go for, apply for a safer grant for 3, and 1 for the regular budget.
Correct.
My recommendation would be to make an amendment to the program addition to be submitted for 1 individual, 1 firefighting position, because that'll be the true change to the next fiscal year's budget. So I'd recommend I'd take that down from 4 positions and down to 1, and I can recalculate those numbers and get them out to you. But if you just
Okay,
amend it to, instead of 4 new firefighting positions, 1 new firefighting position in the program addition for fiscal year 25-26.
Okay, I'll amend it in that regard, but I want to make sure that as we pass this budget, we're going to be seeking approval from the town council to be able to apply for the grant. And we ask that the town council address this at their next meeting.
Fair.
So,
I amend my second.
okay, so now it's the discussion portion, and I have a question. We have two items, but we have one motion. Is that correct? Two items on the program additions?
There were two separate items.
Yeah.
We didn't break them out, but
Right, so it's a total really of 5. Is that correct?
five positions, yes, but on the firefighter piece, again, like, instead of the program addition putting in it for 4, I'd adjust the numbers tomorrow before I submit my budget to the town manager for 1.
Okay.
And then we'd be down to 2.
Okay.
For fiscal year 25, 26, because the
So you're looking
firefighters
for
better.
2 additions. You're looking to take on that firefighter and an inspector.
Correct, yes.
Right. So if we don't have, can we break those 2 out? Can we vote separately on each program addition?
He's in the back somewhere. Mr. Town Manager? Is he in there?
I think he's in the back room.
Yes, okay, yes, we can.
Okay.
He's the
So
lawyer.
I'm sorry for the confusion, but can we amend the motion again? Or the motion can stand, correct?
The motion can stand, you can make a motion.
Because we're only asking for 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So, any other discussion?
So to clarify, I'm making a motion to accept the program additions of the 1 firefighter, along with a request to the town to go forward with the SAFER grant for 3. That's my motion.
Yes, then you
Yes.
can take the second position. on the
Right.
second.
And I second that.
Okay. And,
Comment?
and yes, you can comment.
And it's clear that these are new positions and not replacement of retiring people, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And I have one other thing. We're doing this under the assumption that there will be these potential 4 firefighters will be to add additional personnel on existing shifts.
Correct, yes.
There will be no additional shifts, and there'll be no increase in services.
Yes, the plan for these initial 4, because incremental change to get there, once these 4 individuals are on board and online, my plan would be to staff the ladder truck at headquarters with 4, 24/7, for a majority of the time that the truck rolls out the door.
Right, okay. Okay, so I'm fine with that, and we want to call the roll again? Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
You would take that second edition as enough.
So, yeah, so I'd like to, the second program addition was for an additional fire inspector.
Do we have the figure on that?
I'm
make
sure
a
that,
motion
I'm
for
sure
that.
the chief does.
Yeah, for assumption of cost and benefits is 156,934. I include the benefits piece, again, that's on the town side, not on our budget side, so that the benefits won't be reflected in our budget if it passes. But I think it's a fair assessment to throw that number out, have that number public facing as well, so.
Okay.
I make a motion, we put a budget forward to hire 1 fire inspector.
Can I ask you to amend that to firefighter inspector?
Okay, firefighter inspector,
Thank you.
sorry.
We just have 2 separate classifications, so.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have a second? Is there a second out there? No second? Okay, so motion does not pass.
Fails for lack of a second. It fails for lack of a second.
Failed for lack of a second. Thank you. Next item is Board of Fire Commission comments and communications.
I voted a leave of absence.
We already did it, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we already did that, I'm sorry. So now,
Item C.
we're on to item C.
I make a motion to accept the leave of absence that was discussed in the secretary's report.
Second.
I have his name there.
I have a motion and
Yeah,
a,
Andrew Phillips, sorry.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, so next item is communication from firefighters and the public. So what I'd like to do is have you state your name and your address. We're going to limit comments to town residents and town taxpayers and members of the Department of Southington.
Edwin Crandall. I live at 27 Loomis Road in Bolton, Connecticut. I'm the president of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 2033. Commissioners, minutes ago, your board chose to stand for public safety, for firefighter safety, and your commitment to both by refusing to reduce service levels to our community. The two primary options presented to you at the December 12th meeting, what Chief Heath effectively described as the least bad of all the bad options, would indeed have reduced service levels and increased the risk to our members and the public we're sworn to protect. Local 2033 thanks you for your dedication to maintain the current service levels as we combat the ongoing staffing challenges we face. Local 2033 has an outstanding working relationship with Chief Heath and Assistant Chief Lee, and with our volunteer brother and sister firefighters within the Southington Fire Department. As we worked with board members while collectively navigating this difficult period, it is clear to us we have the same working relationship with you. We place tremendous value in those relationships. Without them, SFD would falter. You, the department's Civilian Oversight Board, are the voice of the SFD within town government. That role, in concert with Chief Heath and Assistant Chief Lee's fire service expertise, are critical in conveying to town leaders the needs of this department. All of us share the burden and responsibility of providing successful all hazards protection to our citizens and those who pass through this community. It is time for us all to look forward to the continuing staffing needs of this department. An honest look at where we are today reveals that maintaining this service level is just a stopgap. Station 3 is still empty nights and weekends. Truck 1 can still respond with only a driver and officer. The retirement of senior leadership is still in the very near future. Our volunteer ranks continue to shrink. In every corner of town, growth is happening. Your decision tonight maintains a service level that, while it increased with the daytime engine 3 years ago at Station 3, it remains at the same night and weekend minimum staffing level we have been at since 1998. It is an obvious fact that our department must grow to match the town if we are to fulfill our responsibility to protect it. SFD cannot spend another 30 years at late 1990s staffing levels. Southington is an amazing community, and it is no surprise that its growth matches its potential. Local 2033 looks forward to continuing the honest conversation necessary to provide the level of all hazards protection that our citizens both demand and deserve. Thank you very much.
I have a few things to say. My name is Kathleen LaForest. I live at 160 Wonk Spring Road in Plantsville for 43 years. I first asked all of you, the commission members, have you ever had a fire at your house? Have any of you had a fire at your house? I can't hear you.
This is the public comment
I'm sorry.
portion.
Oh,
There'll be no back and forth.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was just curious because only if someone has ever had a fire in their home would they ever really know what it's like. 5 years ago, today happens to be 5 years ago that our garage caught fire and almost consumed our house if it was not for the brave men and women of the Southington Fire Department. I woke up at 1 a.m. on January 2nd, 2020, to an inferno of our detached garage. There was no smoke alarms because the garage was detached. There was 50 years worth of things in it, and I tell you, it burned very quickly. I have never been so terrified in my life. My husband and I fled the house, and our good neighbors gave us comfort while all the resources Southington had came out and put the fire out and saved our house. Our house did catch on fire too, but thank God, everything they did, we were able to not have to leave our home, and it was saved because of what they did. I'm so grateful to this very day. No one was hurt, and our house was saved. In the last 10 years, we've had so much growth in this town. I have 17 large houses and a 40-unit apartment complex that was built behind our home alone, and a lot more coming. And have you seen how much was added on to the Alzheimer's Center on South Main Street? There's a lot of elderly people that are living here. If there's a major problem there, who's going to come if nobody's there, especially in the night? 1 o'clock in the morning, I was sound asleep, and the only thing that woke me up was the roar of the fire. You have no idea how terrifying that is, to be woken up by the sound of a fire. I do. And if it wasn't for all these wonderful people that I am so grateful for, I am alive today, and my husband and I are alive today, and our pets too. And we have our home that we didn't have to rebuild and be in a motel for 6 months. You have no idea until you've gone through something like that. So I am pleading. I have been here for 43 years. I came from Terryville to come here for a better life. And they're building, building, building. I'm hearing there's like maybe 200 apartments that are going to come on Curtis Street. You have to provide enough services for everybody, not just for the few elite people that, you know, everybody needs to get the same services as everybody else, everybody. They got to cover the whole town. You can't just cover parts of it, and especially in the night. You know, you have no idea what it's like until you've been through something like I've been through, and I'm here to try to make people understand, and the town council, everybody, the finance committee, town council, all your committees. I mean, I had to deal with planning and zoning 10 years ago, and it's the worst nightmare. I don't know what was worse, the nightmare of my fire, or the nightmare of having to deal with the town. But I only came here today to try to tell the people of this town and the people who run the town that we are important and our lives are important. And don't put us on a number. What's the number of a life? What's the number of any of your loved ones' lives? Okay? That's about all I have to say. I think I wasted enough of everybody's time. But think about what it would be like if you were sound asleep and you woke up to a fire, and who's going to help you? And you want somebody to be there. And I'm grateful to everybody who works in first responding. My father was saved on Christmas night by a first responding paramedic team, and I am so grateful for everybody that's a first responder, because it's the hardest job that anybody will ever have, whether you're paid or volunteered. But this town needs to step up and pay the money. My God, what is wrong with you people?
Thanks
You
for
know?
your comments. That's 4 minutes. Before you start, I want to remind everyone, we're going to allow 4 minutes for everyone to speak.
I don't speak that fast, but I'll try. Rick Hart, 139 Summit Street in Plantsville. I think it's a great incremental step to hire 4 firefighters to offset some of the issues that are plaguing the city of Southington. But that is not enough to adequately staff the fire department to national standards. I don't believe that the city of Southington's fire department is compliant with NFPA 1720 at any time that they respond to a fire. I know Bristol, Meriden, and New Britain respond automatically to any reported working structure fire at a cost of approximately $1,500 to $5,000 per department per call. I know for a fact that the city of Bristol responded 15 times to the city of Southington in mutual aid because the lack of staffing. Now, I know the penny pinchers will say that's a great, great way to offset the cost of personnel. But unfortunately, on Howard Avenue, we're here tonight advocating for additional personnel as opposed to planning a line-of-duty funeral for 2 firefighters. To call a mayday in the fire service is the absolute last resort. And to have the 2 people that had to call a mayday is absolutely reprehensible. The Board of Fire Commissioners, the Board of Finance, and the City Council are explicitly responsible for that having to happen because of the lack of funding their fire department. Now, I know it was put out on social media that there are 37 firefighters, up from 31. While factually correct, it doesn't tell the true story of 7 firefighters on shift that can drop down to 6. And we all know that fires only occur during daylight hours. We don't have fires at night. So having Station 3 vacated leaves the south end of town absolutely in good hands. As far as the SAFER grant is concerned, in 2023, there were 2,191 SAFER grant applications submitted to FEMA. 90 were approved for hiring, and another 100 for recruitment and retention. That's a 9% return on your investment. What happens if you don't get the SAFER grant? Are you just going to hire one, which makes absolutely no sense because you're going to overbalance one shift, and the other 3 shifts are not going to have adequate staffing. You have to look at the staffing models of departments that are similar to the town of Southington. Unfortunately, in this day and age, you can't count on volunteerism anymore. People are working 2 jobs. The people that do show up as volunteers, God bless them, but they're dwindling. You have to hire a minimum of 12 firefighters to make a dent in what you need for adequate shift strength. That would only staff 1 engine, and even that isn't compliant with the NFPA, which calls for 4 firefighters on an engine. You guys have to get your collective heads out of the sand and realize that it's not if it happens, it's when it happens. It's going to happen, where we're going to have a tragedy where the right person is going to be adversely affected by the low staffing model that the Southington Fire Department has. And the money that the town will have to pay in restitution far outweighs the amount of money that the cost of the personnel would be to the town. So with that, I would advocate for 12 firefighters. That gives you additional staffing, adequate staffing at a bare minimum. Thank you.
Good evening, Nathan Kaufman, 84 Westbrook Road. The mission statement on the town's website emphasizes the goal of protecting life, property, and the environment by delivering exceptional and progressive all-hazard emergency services, public education, and fire prevention programs. However, how can a fire department achieve this mission when it fails to meet the minimum requirements of NFPA 1710? To clarify, NFPA 1710 mandates that 16 personnel must arrive on scene for an initial alarm at a single-family residence, or 17 if they're using an aerial apparatus. For apartments and open-air strip malls, the requirement is 27 members, or 28 with an aerial apparatus. Additionally, each engine and truck must be staffed with a minimum of 4 personnel. Currently, the town has a total of 36 career members, including chiefs, the training officer, fire marshals, along with approximately 25 certified volunteer firefighters for interior firefighting. The career side operates with a shift strength of only 7 firefighters, which is less than half of what NFPA 1710 requires to protect the town and its residents. Due to the shortage of manpower, the town has to call in mutual aid for even the smallest house fire. The fact that our town can't even handle a single room and contents fire should outrage you. To those who argue the presence of volunteer justifies our department only having 36 members, here's a reality check. It's widely acknowledged that there has been significant decline in volunteer services nationwide. Volunteers are unreliable asset for daily responses due to their job commitments and other obligations, and their response times within the town are proof of that. NFPA 1710 also includes specific response time requirements. Alarm answer, within 15 seconds, 95% of the time, or 40 seconds, 99% of the time. Alarm processing, within 64 seconds, 95% of the time, or within 106 seconds, 99% of the time. Turnout, which is dispatch to the on-road time, within 80 seconds. First due engine arrival on scene, within 4 minutes, 90% of the time. Second due engine arrival on scene, within 6 minutes, 90% of the time. The fire department currently averages 12 minutes to arrive on scene of an incident, which is 8 minutes longer than what NFPA 1710 requires. Volunteers average 20 minutes for their first unit to arrive. Station 3 currently operates on a limited schedule, and there are plans to close it completely, which would leave that side of town vulnerable with increased response times of 18 to 20 minutes 100% of the time. This station needs to be open 24/7. The town spans 36.8 square miles and has a population of approximately 43,743 according to the 2023 census. It includes major infrastructures like I-84. How do you find it acceptable to cover this area 75% of the time with one engine, one ladder truck, and a battalion chief car, all staffed by only 7 firefighters in total, if they're lucky, maybe 6? Do you understand how negligent that is? This severely compromises the fire department's ability to provide effective fire suppression and life safety services. With the current average response time of 12 minutes, fires can rapidly escalate, resulting in fully involved structures with minimal salvageability. If firefighters are already engaged on another call, the situation becomes even more dire. Moreover, with the closure of Station 3, the average response time is only going to increase further. The lack of support from the town for the fire department is a disgrace. The department is being forced to operate on a skeleton crew, endangering both firefighters and residents. It wasn't long ago that 2 firefighters got disoriented and a Mayday situation arose. Thankfully, they managed to get out safely, but it could have resulted in 2 line-of-duty deaths. The games you've been playing with the members of Local 2033 have gone long enough. It's time to get your act together and start supporting the people who would lay down their lives for you. You seem to take firefighters for granted, and you're walking a dangerously thin line. A serious incident where lives will be lost is imminent. It's not a matter of if, but when. If any lives are lost due to the lack of personnel or increased response times, the consequences will be severe, and you all will be held responsible. It's time to take this matter seriously and provide the necessary support to ensure safety of both firefighters and residents, and I expect more protection for my tax dollars. Thank you.
Regina Coviello, 12 Beecher Street, 1 street away from that fire. I could see the house. I am here tonight in support of our local firefighters. When I heard that we almost lost 2 of them at the fire on Howard Avenue, I became scared. I, being disabled, would have had a hard time getting out and might have needed help. If this was the case, not only myself and my animals, 2 dogs, a rabbit, and a mouse, but also those 2 firefighters, we may not have all made it, trying to get me out of the house. We as a town have the responsibility to keep not only our residents, but our firefighters as safe as possible. I feel that it is mandatory that we increase firefighters' staffing. We have 37, staff firefighters, which is under the Connecticut state average of 1.28 per 1,000 residents. Our population was at around 44,000 a few years ago, and our population has and is growing. With that being said, my calculations with 44,000 residents should be 56. We should at least have 44, 1 per every 1,000. The average salary for a firefighter is between $58,000 to $71,000 a year. Farmington actually has a job listed right now for $67,000. All right, so we'll take that, $67,000 divided by 44,000 of our population. That's only $1.52 per resident per year. to have an extra firefighter. We can't go to the store and buy anything for that amount. There should be no reason this town cannot come up with a way to get the money needed for additional firefighters. Standing here today I myself will get fundraisers going, if need be, to get added firefighters. Like the saying goes, just do it. One last thing, this town has to be more careful with spending money. Southington just paid $2.1 million on the bank across from the green. That was double what the property was worth and never came to referendum. So if the town can do that, then they can hire more firefighters. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having this hearing. My name is Alexandra Giżyca Anderson. I live at 659 Prospect Street in Southington, Connecticut. Today I am here because firefighter safety is very important to me. In October 2024, I was able to support quite a few members of Global Defense and Industry Coalition, and the goal of the organization is to go to the front lines of various military conflicts with new and enhanced technology and see what solutions work best. And so for us, for Global Defense and Industry Coalition, one of the most critically watched items is drones. So we watch for drone utilization across the front lines. This includes fire extinguishing, it includes defense operations monitoring, civilian evac rescue operations. From coming back from the October and walking into this meeting, I want to make sure that for whatever budget discussions, whether they're operational or they're capital expenses, drone discussion should be present there. I will explain why. So using the situation that occurred at Howard Avenue, there should have been no question on whether or not to send physical people into that building. We have the technology in the United States that can send a ground robot. So that robot can provide all the information that there is to know about the conditions of the basement. So at that point, if we were able to invest in the capital expense, right, to actually get that drone, you would have firefighters with zero presence inside the basement, completely safe. So for me, I think that some of the items on the checklist that should really be discussed is whether or not our town is willing to train our firefighters and invest in capital expenses from a completely different budget in drone technology. The drone technology recommended for fighters today include aerial reconnaissance and monitoring. It provides real-time aerial views of fire scenes to assess the situation and monitor fire speed. It includes thermal imaging, meaning that the drone can detect the source of the fire and essentially guide the firefighters to extinguish the fire at the source and then treat everything else. Then there is search and rescue operations. You essentially send a drone into the building. It has flashing lights on it, and it has a speaker that's attached. It's telling people, follow me, evacuate, and leads people out this way. All of this technology is AI capable, meaning you can teach a drone what you want it to do. On the front lines in Ukraine and the city of Kharkiv, the firefighters do the following thing. They do not, while people are getting into the actual truck, the drone is already flying ahead. By the time the firefighters get to the actual scene, the commander or lieutenant or whoever is currently in charge and driving the drone program already have the intelligence on how to approach the scene before you even get to the scene. So that expedites both response times, and it also increases the capacity of services that is offered. Then there is fire scene assessment. That's documentation. So it documents fire scenes and damage for investigation, and specifically for residents, it has a lot of impact because it can be used for insurance purposes. Then the most challenging portion is exposure to hazardous materials. When firefighters go into the building, we already know that within the industry, there is a very, very high risk of poisoning and all other combination of hazardous materials that the firefighters get exposed to that then catch up with them later on in life. So there is drones that specifically have capabilities to monitor for hazardous environments. There is a grant that is available at the federal level. This grant right now is it's time for us to use it, because if we in Southington don't start it, next year you will have another 100 police departments that are fighting for the same money, and it'll be the same situation with the SMART grant program. It is currently available to firefighters. I'm asking you to please consider sending people to train. It is not coming out of taxpayer expenses. It's purely a federal grant. The expenses are just the drone equipment itself. And then lastly, there is a strategic plan that was put together in 2022. That plan definitely needs updating to include the drone technology evolution in it, if that is something that the town wants to pursue. In 2022 is the year that we saw the evolution. I have a lot of resources that I brought for myself. This is all yours, including models that are mostly liked within the firefighter community, and then integration potentials with police departments. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my first name is Covell Fusco. I live at 110 Dunham Place. A little bit personal background for myself. I have over 26 years of experience as a first responder, volunteering both fire and EMS. I worked through the ranks of EMS to become a paramedic and work full-time at Bristol EMS. I'm currently the lead PA at a local ER, and I also oversee medical control for Bristol EMS, Bristol Fire, Bristol PD, Terryville Fire, and Burlington Fire, which on another note, we'll talk about the Lucas. Some personal experience. I had a devastating fire in 2009. I was at home living with my parents. We lost everything. Luckily, my family was able to get out okay. I was born and raised in the town of Avon, a volunteer fire department. I volunteered in town, and I know if we had a paid department, that devastating fire would have been minimal with everything that we lost. When I called 911 that morning and reported to dispatch that black, thick smoke and fire was in the house, and I had evacuated my parents and my elderly grandmother. It took the fire department close to 20 minutes to arrive on scene. The closest fire department was about 2 miles from my house. The first people that showed up was a police officer and 2 other personnel that showed up from the fire department, but not even a fire truck. I tell you this because I have firsthand experience of a devastating fire. Standing outside, waiting hopelessly, as the minutes tick by, they seem like hours. Homeowners insurance does not give you dollar for dollar amount for everything that you lost. All the memories, all the clothing, all the family pictures, they can't be replaced. Yet we continue to pay our house insurance, hoping that one day we will never need them. Now I speak to you as a wife of a career firefighter in Southington. I cannot put a price on the men's lives. The same crew that responded to Aircraft Road and rescued 2 souls were the same crew that responded to Howard Ave and almost lost 2 of their own. They are an insurance policy that the town taxes pay for. God forbid you experience a fire, a car accident, a medical, or some other tragic event where you find yourself calling 911. These men will show up. We should not have to rely on our neighbors to help bail us out every time. It is not their responsibility to show up every time we call mutual aid. The neighboring fire departments don't have to have any personal responsibility to show up when we call mutual aid. It is a simple agreement. They don't get paid for mutual aid. They don't have any response to come in mutual aid. They can decline it. If surrounding towns don't have the volunteers to show up for mutual aid, they can't show up. In a 1-room interior building, it says that you need a minimum of 17 firefighters on scene. At best, Southington can get 9 on scene. And again, that's long as there's no other calls, medicals, or accidents going on. The national standard is 15 fire personnel in 9 minutes. Yes, smoke detectors work and they save lives, but only if the smoke detectors are working. I ask all the wives and family of the Southington Fire Department to stand up for a quick second. And mothers, yep, family, yep, you're included. Please. It is the fire department's job to show up on scene in a timely manner, prepared to rescue, contain, and extinguish fire. It is your civic duty as the Board of Fire Commissions to ensure that the department has proper staff 24/7 and equipment for these firefighters to carry out their job and get home safely to their families.
To the Southington Board of Fire Commissioners, my name is
Can I get
Richard-
your name and your address, please?
I was just going to say it.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
Okay. My name is Richard Mayhew. I live at 180 Deer Run in Plantsville. I'm a 24-year retired firefighter paramedic from the town of Hamden. 2 points that I found in research. A previous meeting of this board in 2024, the chief stated, I quote, "We are experiencing a significant issue with our ability to assemble a volunteer response. This is not just days, but is becoming more prevalent 24 hours a day," unquote. Also, I found that the town of Southington is 21st of the most populated cities in Connecticut. Connecticut has 169 towns. Almost 1 year ago, I spoke to the town council, along with many other firefighters and citizens of Southington, regarding the appalling lack of minimum manning for the town of Southington Fire Department. Sadly, I believe nothing has changed for the better. The new contract only allows a firefighter callback after the first shift absence. Who determined that no structure fires occur during the first shift absence of a firefighter? You leave it up to the chief, who is responsible to the town council and your board for funding, equipment, and his contract. This is not being disrespectful to the chief, but only stating the reality of public service. Chairman Chaplinsky argues that his council has increased paid personnel from 31 to 37 in the past 10 years. I submit that this is a false argument, as it only states the total paid firefighters on the department, not the shift staffing or apparatus staffing on any shift. As been said before, NFPA standards call for a minimum of 4 firefighters per apparatus. Southington can still run with as little as 2 if the chief decides not to replace the missing firefighter. I submit that the future will bring increased property damage and, most sadly, fatalities, either citizen, firefighter, or both. If the governing bodies of Southington continue to ignore and refuse to bring firefighter manning levels up to NFPA standards, the responsibility will be theirs to carry. Thank you.
Mary Jo Pilato, 28 Aircraft. I wish I wrote this down, but yeah, I don't understand the disconnect between the leadership in such a large town and the requirement to provide enough professional staff that's trained to handle these emergencies. I mean, you never know when they're going to happen. You can't hedge or, guess. There needs to be, obviously not a blank check, but the fire service needs to be funded fully so they could protect the residents, the visitors of the town, and the many businesses here. Me and my boyfriend were going about our daily activities. I work at home. He had just had knee replacement the week prior. His physical therapist left. I received a package in the mail that was squished and, joked about it on social media. Little did I know that was the least of my worries today, or that day. When we were notified, with the clatter that, there was something wrong in the building, by the time we put shoes on, this is just shoes. We weren't cleaning the dishwasher or tidying things up. It was just to have a solid footing to escape down the steps. When we opened the door back up, there was solid black smoke, and our only exit was blocked. I closed the door and had faith. In my mind, I thought the fire department's going to come, they're going to put out that fire, suck out the smoke, and we'll be able to walk down those steps. And that was the thought that kept me somewhat calm for a while. And it was clear that that was not going to happen. The smoke was billowing from the apartment underneath, which that's where the fire was. And, you know, it was very frightening and traumatic to think that maybe you were not going to escape. The fire personnel were wonderful. They came in, reassured us that, you know, asked us if we were fine or, you know, okay, and reassured us that we would be saved. How that was going to happen, I had no clue. But the intensity of what was going on, you know, with listening to the radio and seeing things progress, it was urgent that we had to get out. And the only way out was through the little window that was there. Still shocking that we made it out through the window, especially with, you know, someone with a knee that was only a week old. But thankfully, we were able to get out, and I guess by the universe, I was told, we were blessed that the fire started at the time of day where there were fire personnel to fight the inside fire, the outside, the roof, and then rescue us. If it had started 2 hours later, I mean, you know, there was no telling. It could have been just a much worse tragedy. Yeah, I just beg of you all to really form a better partnership and, you know, really serve these professionals in the manner that is required.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Tommy Cherico, 17 Walnut Street. Thank you for allowing me to speak in front of you tonight. I find myself standing in front of the town representatives again for a second time in a year, begging for adequate staffing for our fire department. As a resident and a 13-year career firefighter, I have time and time again seen the devastating effects of fire to families within our community and farmers in communities that I work in. The only thing that has made a difference in life safety and property conservation is a well-staffed and well-trained fire department. I truly believe Southington Fire Department is a top-tier, well-trained service that has done a phenomenal job in fire suppression and rescue operations. Although I truly believe they've gotten lucky over the years, particularly as seen in Howard Ave last week. As much as training is paramount to successful fireground operations, equally as important is appropriate staffing and low response times. Without these, failure is imminent. What I've seen from the Southington government is a pattern of disrespect towards the fire service. Southington is a burgeoning community, and so are the challenges to the fire service. We have a community that cannot continue to rely on luck. Hope, and prayer to keep us safe. I don't want firefighters on an engine showing up to my house at 3 a.m. With minimal or almost no backup coming, and under your proposed plan, the farthest being not even a station that doesn't even have staffing at night, to have to make a decision whether or not one man can enter my home to find my 3-year-old child. I don't want that for my child, and I don't want that for the firefighters. I truly cannot comprehend why we're continually having battles with staffing, whether long-term or short-term. This is becoming unacceptable, and we, the community, are tired of it. We value our fire service, we value our public safety, and although we do want fiscal responsibility, the government role is to provide adequate fire protection, for which current staffing models fail absolutely miserably. I'm asking the Commission to consider increase in staffing and taking public safety as a whole a lot more seriously. Thank you.
Good evening. Honorable members of the Fire Commission, my name is Jack Perry. I live at 153 Moore Hill Drive in Southington. I also currently serve on the Southington Town Council. Before I read the statement that I prepared for this evening, I first want to thank the fire chief, the town manager, and the chair for recording tonight's meeting. I put the request in for the fact that several constituents told me that they could not be here this evening, and they've all have things that they wanted to say, and unfortunately, with 4 minutes, I won't be able to go into all that. Also want to thank the chair for removing the executive session item that was going to be about the incident update on Howard Ave. I greatly appreciate that. I think that should be in the public's eye. Also, as a council member, I do support the SAFER grant, so as soon as that comes in front of the council, I will definitely support that 100%. Earlier this year, I really had an eye-opener experience. The fire department invited the council, Board of Finance to attend a training event. We suited up. It was Councilwoman Clock, Candace Mazzarella from the Board of Finance, and myself. And it was an eye-opener to see what the fire department goes through, and that was a controlled environment. And we could not see. I asked them, how do they know who they're talking to, because it was hard to see in that building. And, you know, it was an eye-opener because once they added water to the fire, it went from a hot radiant heat to a steam. And the gear that they wear, I just couldn't imagine having to continue to fight a fire once that happened. And then the oxygen that I had on my back turned hot. So with that being said, I want to also, read my statement. I come before you today with a matter of grave concern that we as a community must deliberate upon the utmost urgency and dedication. We pride ourselves on being a community that upholds the highest standards of our safety and service to our citizens. Our firefighters are on the front lines every day, and their unwavering commitment to protecting the life and property is a noble cause that demands our full support. We have recently borne witness to a Mayday incident on Howard Ave, a situation that is every firefighter's worst nightmare and a pivotal call for us to reevaluate and reinforce our fire department's operational capabilities. Let this incident serve not just you as a wake-up call, but as an irrefutable testament to why our firefighters need optimal resources and staffing to do their job safely and effectively. Addressing the findings of the 2022 master plan study that was provided by ESCI is not a matter of preference but necessity. The study clearly recommends staffing every fire engine and ladder truck with 4 firefighters. Currently, our department falls short on this key safety standard, and the implications of this deficit are as real as the dangers of our firefighters face in the heat of service. It deeply saddens and concerns me to learn about discussions surrounding the closure of a fire station. Discussions that, in my opinion, should never occur in secretive or behind-the-scenes meetings that could possibly violate the Freedom of Information Act and undermine the public confidence. The mere idea of shutting down a fire station, thereby risk our community's safety, is unacceptable. The implications of such actions hinted at within previous meeting agendas, cryptically marked as executive session, are serious. These discussions should never have occurred in secrecy, far from the public's watchful eye, and without the input of our first responders. We must right this course and ensure full transparency and adherence to open meeting laws as we move forward in our decision-making processes. We have a duty to heed the voices of our firefighters and their family, the very individuals who risk life and limb for the sake of others. The price of the community's safety is immeasurable, and cutting corners that jeopardize the safety cannot be justified by fiscal concerns. Today, I call upon the Fire Commission to align with the insights provided by the ESCI Master Plan Study. Let us take clear action to ensure that our firefighter teams are staffed to recommended levels to provide a safeguard not only for our citizens, but also for the courageous men and women who wear the uniform.
That's 4 minutes, Councilman.
I'm on last page, if you wouldn't mind, last 2 paragraphs. We cannot repeat what we cannot. I repeat, we cannot turn a blind eye to the sacrifices made by our first responders. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that they have the necessary support to carry out their outstanding service, free from unnecessary barriers and equipped with the right tools and personnel. Let us be reminded that ensuring the safety of Southington is not just an investment, but a duty. We are here to serve the public good, a mission we can only fulfill by holding true to the principles of transparency, accountability, and unwavering support for those who serve and protect. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this crucial issue, and I look forward to the cooperation and clear action in support of our brave firefighters. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nick Tracheff, 60 Butternut Lane, resident, obviously, of the town and a firefighter in Hamden. While I am encouraged by some of the things I've heard tonight, I think the citizens of this town need to take a close look at their elected officials and how this whole situation was handled. Southington needs more firefighters and more support from their elected officials. And when I say support, I don't mean spending money on trucks, buildings, or equipment. All fire departments cost money, paid, volunteer, or a combination of both. Approving the purchase of new fire trucks and upgrading fire stations does not prove that you support the fire department. It just proves that you have an existing fire department. You can buy all the fire trucks in the world, but if you don't hire anyone to drive them, what's the point? The fact that closing down a firehouse was even an option is dangerous, scary, and irresponsible. As a resident, I'm seriously concerned that the council cares more about the overtime budget than the safety of the residents and firefighters. And I hope this is a wake-up call to all the citizens that we should be paying more attention to what's going on. The town should be governed by rational thought and the needs of their constituents. Instead, what we saw here tonight was reactionary self-preservation. In the short time I've lived here, this town has experienced some tragedy. And shortly after any tragedy, what does everyone say? How could this have been avoided? Well, I'm here telling you now, before the next tragedy, how to avoid the next one. Properly staff your fire department. Will this guarantee tragedy won't occur? Of course not. But at least you'll know you did what you could to prevent it. Tonight, again, was encouraging, but certainly cannot be considered progress. I hope the town is finally aware that the residents need and want more firefighters in this town. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Doug Roy from 40 Cornerstone Court, also retired fire captain after 30 years on the department here. I want to thank you for your passing of your budgets, so there is no station closing. I came with a speech, would have probably gone over 4 minutes, but I'm throwing that away because this is the wrong venue to complain to you all. You're doing your jobs, okay, at least as far as where we are this month. This is a problem that's been going on for 35 years that I know of. I've been fighting the battle as a union president for most of those years. It's a revolving set of town councilors, revolving set of Board of Finance people. I've been through, I believe, 4 town managers now. Overtime's always a factor. At least John Weichel, love him or hate him, he knew that paying overtime was the cost of not hiring people. And that was the choice he made. He had a different council at the time, different Board of Finance. Things have changed in 35 years everywhere. This is the wrong venue to complain. The venue where we need to be bringing all of us is to the Board of Finance, the town council meetings. They're the people that oversee what our commission submits, and they have the power to strike it. So again, thank you for bringing the meeting to here and allowing all these folks here. Thank you, Chiefs. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hilda Capral. I live at 104 Beechwood Drive here in town. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I had something prepared, but a lot of people have said it. I also want to thank all of you in this room, and I think you should all give yourself a hug because you're here because you care. And I thank the fire department also. I also want to thank the people that shared their lived experience about being in a fire. I too was in a fire, 2010. I almost lost my life. I suffer from PTSD. Every time I hear a fire engine, I jump. It's crucial, and I also like to thank all the people, and especially the young lady about the drones that did all their research on all the stats. I know that there are going to be people retiring. I also know, and I have a question, is while we're hiring new people early, it's my understanding that it's a 15-week training program. So is it going to be overlapped? Is there going to be a gap? We also have to think about we have I-84, 691. they go to those traffic crashes and things like that. And then also, I live in the area of Clark Street Firehouse. So if we have to have a fire, it's got to be between 7 and 3. My fire was not between 7 and 3. I'm lucky I got out. I was out of my house for 7 months. Luckily, the fire department got there in time because somebody had called about something that had been happening down the street, so they were on their way. If they had not made that phone call, my house would have been down to the ground, and I probably would be toast and would not be speaking to you today. Also, with the, I have that Bristol, Meriden, New Britain all have 4 firefighters on their ladder trucks. We don't. How come? And I know that money is tight and people complain about taxes, but we have to make that hard decision and be creative. And this is a worst case scenario, and I hate to bring it up, but if we have our trucks go to a fire, and you have a call out, and you only have like maybe 2 people. You have the driver and the firefighter. What happens if something where the firefighter has like a mayday? You have to have that other firefighter make the decision to be God. Do I go and save him? Do I save the people in the house? What do I do? We shouldn't have to have them decide and play God. I'm saying this is the worst case scenario, but it can happen. And I think the other gentleman that was talking is about the Board of Finance and the Town Council. I think that this should be brought up more to the community, even if it has to go to a referendum. But I ask you all to really take time and search. I mean, I know that you said to the other lady when she asked you if any of you have been in a fire, I hope none of you ever have to be in a fire, because it's terrible. It stays with you for the rest of your life. You still see the flames and the smoke.
That's 4 minutes. Thanks for your comment.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Zygmunt. I live at 167 Marion Avenue. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the board for their positive impact on the budget and at least maintaining what we have. I started in the Southington Fire Department in 1985 as a volunteer. I was lucky enough to be hired full-time in 1988, and I served 30 years total with the town of Southington, ending the last 9 years of my job was, as Rich and many of the battalion chiefs are, our job is to command the fire scene. And I'll tell you, the main reason I'm here and I want to speak tonight is because of the worst day of my life in the fire service was the day that I was in command of a fire and I heard a mayday. It is gut-wrenching. It is almost unbelievable. And you've heard a lot of talk tonight about NFPA standards. Those standards and the numbers that they require exist so that there is an adequate number of people on scene that can immediately begin a rescue when a firefighter is in danger. Without that, very oftentimes, when I was in command of fires, we'd send in our crews and there was no one outside. If someone called a mayday, we had no one to go in and help. In my particular case, we did have a crew on scene, and it turned out to be a positive outcome. Those members were able to self-extricate, which was ideal. This Howard Avenue incident brings it back to me, and it brings it fresh into my mind. That potential exists and will continue to exist until we get enough staffing so we can adequately respond with backup crews. Thank you.
Hi there. My name's Rachel Gerard. I live at 150 Hart Street. I would like to thank you all for approving the budget today, but we all know that this could be stopped at the town council, so this is more for the town manager and any council members that might be here. So in less than a year, I stand before you for the second time, now with frustration and anger. At approximately this time last year, I encouraged you to do the right thing, the just thing, and maintain safer staffing for our members of the Southington Fire Department. Well, here we are a year later, and nothing has changed. Instead, there are proposals to make things worse, and not only for our firefighters, but also for the residents of Southington. It shouldn't take two Mayday calls for this to shed light on the dangers our firefighters face. To the town manager, while you are having your Christmas party, as you should, with most likely not a care in the world, our families were wondering if they were going to see their husbands, dad, fathers, sons, brothers again. Do you know what it's like to hear a Mayday call and not hear for your loved one for hours after? Not knowing if you're going to see them again? I don't think what we're asking for is unreasonable in any way, shape, or form. Recent research by the National Institute of Standards and Technologies proved that a house built in more recent years can burn down significantly faster than older structures. Newer construction uses faster burning materials such as synthetic fabrics and insulation, which can rapidly ignite and spread flames. According to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, highly combustible materials such as polyethylene foam means that the fire can double in size every 30 seconds, given the right fuel load and oxygen supply. This research confirmed that homes and their contents can burn 8 times faster than houses constructed and furnished decades ago. With that being said, now instead of 15 to 20 minutes a person would have to evacuate an older home, they now have near minutes in newer homes. Okay, so why is this important and relevant to why we're here today? As you said, you don't plan on closing Station 3 or moving headquarters again. However, the town council may go against that. So for that, the council has made it clear they are not technically reducing the total number of firefighters in the department. However, if they do decide to temporarily close one of the current stations, this means either headquarters or Company 3 in Milldale. That said, the 3 current members who work Monday through Friday, 7 to 3 or 7 to 4, will no longer be in place. Instead, they will be absorbed onto a shift. This will reduce the total number of firefighters on a shift Monday through Friday daytime. So while they aren't technically reducing the number of staffing or firing anyone, they are reducing the number who is responding. This means those vital wait times for either the center of town or south end of town for our first responders to get there will be significantly longer. I would also like to add safety includes hiring our first firefighter back that calls out. The town of Southington spent thousands of dollars on the Emergency Service Consulting International Fire Protection to formulate a master plan and community risk assessment, not once, but twice. This plan was performed by an independent research group who has no affiliation with the Southington Fire Department. Did you know that they identified politics as one of the major threats to the future success of the fire department? And that allowing politics to permeate the fire department would only detract from its mission. This plan recommended that the Southington Fire Department work towards having a minimum of 4 personnel on all staffed engines, ladder trucks, in accordance with the NFPA 1710. The value of a 4-person staffing cannot be overstated. 4 firefighters allow for safer and more efficient delivery of fire suppression operations than is possible with only 3. The town and department should make a commitment to adopting a minimum staffing policy using the NFPA 1710 that guarantees the 4 personnel. Here we're just asking for 3, just to hire the first guy back. I also want to quickly add, I know this isn't necessarily involved today, but could future come, how important the Lucas devices are to be maintained on these engines. As an APRN, I know
That's 4 minutes. So when you get to 4 minutes, it doesn't mean you have to. I'm more than happy to give you a few minutes, a few seconds to finish up.
Okay, so as an APRN, how important Lucas devices are for cardiac arrest and their improved outcomes of survival if used. Yes, I've heard there are some disadvantages, but studies have showed compared to manual CPR, the Lucas device chest compressions were performed more frequently correct, 99% versus a mere 59%. And then the last point I want to just address, again, this isn't today, but could be coming up, is the TIMS, which is a state and federally regulated that states there should be 2 fire trucks responding on accidents on the highway, not the DOT in certain situations. If any town should know the importance of blocking for first responders, it's Southington. So once again, I will call to the board, thank you, but to the town council to do the right thing, the safe thing, the just thing by our firefighters who would be there for you in an emergency if you need it. Give them the staffing to come home to their families.
Thank you.
Sean Carney, 115 Ferncliff Drive, resident of Southington, local career firefighter. I appreciate you for maintaining the level of services that residents of Southington have currently. It concerns me that you say you support public safety, yet you won't even send a recommendation for an additional firefighter inspector to the town council or the Board of Finance. The worst thing that could happen is they say no. The Southington town motto is, "We are a town of progress." Even a fully staffed fire marshal's office cannot do the amount of work that they have. With the amount of building and construction that's going on in the town, you are putting us at risk by not starting from the beginning. I fully agree that the town of Southington needs more staffing with NFPA recommendations. Living in a part of town that currently has no fire protection at night if the firefighters are on another call, I would just like to say I don't pay taxes to the towns of Cheshire, the city of Meriden, the city of Bristol. I pay town taxes to Southington, and I deserve Southington firefighters, volunteer or career, to protect my property. I would also like to say there's 5 of you sitting in front of us. With one more, do you think that you would be able to respond to a fire, secure a water supply, attack the fire, and rescue people from that fire? And unlike voting, these firefighters cannot abstain from doing any of those jobs. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Mary Palenkoss. I live at 21 Andrew Street. During the month of November, I had to call on the fire department on 2 different occasions. One for an outdoor fire, and the other was for a carbon monoxide alarm that was going off. Their swift, professional, and compassionate response was not only reassuring to me and my family, but vital to ensuring our safety and that of others in our neighborhood. These experiences have deepened my appreciation for the essential role our firefighters play in maintaining the well-being of the town of Southington's residents. And I want to say thank you to all of you. The safety and security of Southington's residents is always a top priority. We need to staff the fire department according to national standards. And if that's 4 people on a truck, that's what it should be. Ignoring the realities of our town's growth and the increasing demands placed on emergency services, I urge you to consider the potential consequences of these changes. And the thing that really concerns me most is a longer response time. On these 2 occasions in November, my family and I stood in our driveway waiting. And luckily, the response was very speedy. I didn't even think twice that this was going to be a problem. But it may be in the future, given everything that's being discussed tonight. Our town's continued success depends on maintaining a strong foundation of public safety. Please prioritize the needs of our growing community by staffing our fire department so they can serve effectively and safely. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to our town. I trust you will make a decision that reflects the values and needs of Southington's residents and our firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vincent Jasunas. I reside at 136 Rethal Street. I've been a member of the fire department under the McDonough Murphy years. Way back then, there was a problem with staffing when we were volunteers. And it's getting worse. There's trends. Everybody knows it. You should know it. You're on the Board of Fire Commissioners. You should know the trends that are happening with volunteerism. And if you don't, shame on you, because you should already have addressed this. I'm not going to be as nice as these people thanking you. This should already been in the books and been taken care of. The chief shouldn't have to go out and try to find some sort of fund or something from the government to fund our department. You guys should be backing him and funding these guys to get the proper personnel on the job. That's it. You have beautiful trucks. Who's going to man them? Who? Tell me. It's not happening. I happen to be at that one on Aircraft Road. And all those guys that showed up, I mean, when you call mutual aid, they're not there at a click. It takes them minutes to get there. These guys are doing a tremendous job with little you are giving them. It's not the town council, it's you guys. It starts with you. Fund these guys. Fund the fire department the right way, the correct way, before it's going to happen. Somebody said it earlier. There's going to be a death, and everybody's going to point the finger at you guys. It's going to start with you. It starts and ends with you. You could put it before the council. Let them deny it, and then we go after them. But it starts with you. And you, Chief, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone? Okay, thank you all for your comments. CFOI thing? Yeah, that was something that was given to the chief, I believe. Yeah. So we don't have to vote, we're just gonna send it to the chief. Okay. Tell Becky.
I just got that, so. No.
So originally, I had invited the chair of the town council, the chair of the Board of Finance, and the minority chair of the town council to an executive session to get a briefing on the Howard Avenue fire. There were some comments and some concerns about that, so what we decided to do was put it at the end of the meeting and get a brief overview from the chief on the incident. The official incident report came out today. I'm sure that the commissioners have not had a chance to go over it completely with the preparation for this meeting. So we're going to ask the chief to give us an overview, and I have a few questions that were submitted from the respective chairs that are going to be asked of the chief. So with that, Chief, do you have a briefing on the incident?
I do, and I've also requested from you to have both the incident commander and safety officer from that incident here as well to follow up on any questions. I will throw out the caveat that I was not on scene to the first 20 minutes, so their expertise and observations and interpretation of what happened that night would be crucial or critical, as by the time I got on scene, the Mayday had been rectified. But about approximately 3:14 in the morning on December 26th, a reported structure fire came in for a fire in a attic or a bathroom vent, light vent. Vent's like a Newtone fan system. And again, I'll defer to Battalion Chief Jones. Arrived on scene. He had heavy smoke showing, or moderate smoke showing. Declared the working fire protocol. Both Truck 1 and Squad 5 were staffed at their current staffing levels of 3 each. They were the only 2 staffed apparatus in town at the time. Truck 1 arrived first. It was reported that the occupants were out of the building. However, we never take that at face value or for granted. So in addition to confirming that there are no occupants in the building, the individuals going to also search for the location, or what we call the seat of the fire. Squad 5 arrived shortly thereafter, I believe, 4 minutes. About 4.5 minutes after Truck 1, and they were assigned suppression operations, stretching a hose line off the rig, establishing a positive water supply from a hydrant, and entering the building. They went in to assist Truck 1 in searching for potential life, as well as the fire itself. And listening to the audio tapes of the event, little miscommunication on the inside. Conditions were moderate heat, heavy black smoke down to the floor, and the first floor from where they were. Again, this incident occurred in the first floor. I had initially reported that it occurred in the basement on my press release. That was not the case, and they were making the decision to back out, to try and locate it. They were pretty sure they knew they had a basement fire. Heat was increasing. They just could not find access to the basement. Reported that their masks were covered in soot. They had to keep wiping it off. Their thermal imaging cameras, again, were also getting covered in soot and weren't effective. So the decision was to start backing out. Again, I'll let the 2 chiefs entertain more information on that too. But in the process of backing out, 2 of the firefighters got out, and the hose line, which is a vital tool in many cases, the people here will let you know, to follow out in order to get out of the structure. The hose line was actually pulled out of the structure a little too fast. The captain and the lieutenant who were still inside, noted as conditions were deteriorating, became disoriented in terms of trying to locate the exit without the assistance of the hose line. And as we train our people consistently, we have been for years on this, and it's, I don't want to say it's a national thing, but studies have shown that the sooner you call a mayday, the more likely you are to resolve that situation, either by self-rescue or having a crew come and perform that rescue instead of waiting until the last minute for your air bottles to run out or other situations. So with the assistance of firefighters outside, again, there was 2 of the firefighters that were initially inside and outside. They were able to, make their way to the exit and resolve the mayday without incident. The concern there, as well as when the mayday was called, there was no available units or any other additional available staffing that would have been there to perform a rescue or to mitigate the scene if they weren't able to self-rescue themselves. So that's the gist of it in terms of that position. Again, that all occurred prior to my arrival. Yes, we did bring in a significant mutual aid. There was reports that, it was only a 1,400 square foot house. The reports were out, why don't you just throw water through the window? Firefighting tactic. We eventually did that in order to get the situation relatively under control before we went back in. Fire actually ended up in the basement. It was a converted barn built in 1890, I believe, and it was in what we would almost look like cold storage. It was a half wall blocked off crawl space. I had crews in from Company 1 on Engine 12, crews on Squad 5, Truck 1. I had a crew in there from Bristol as well, having trouble locating the seat of that fire to the point where we ended up having to cut holes in the floor in order to get to it based on its location. So 1,450 square foot house, very challenging, not an event that anyone wants to hear as having someone call a mayday. I've broadcast one once in my career. And the battalion chief was the incident commander of this one, was the one affected by that, and he's witnessed it now in itself. Retired Chief Zigmont mentioned it as well for Maxon West. I was there for that fire as well. I was actually inside when that mayday was broadcast. So it's not something to be taken lightly, but our training and expertise, the wherewithal of our crews made it a positive outcome. So.
Okay, thank you. So all our team members are uninjured at this point?
Yes, that is correct, yep.
Okay. So you know, we saw some early references on social media that staffing caused 2 firefighters to almost die. You know, were we fully staffed at the time of the fire? Was there a writ established? Do you have, you know, I know these aren't your statements, but can you give us some background on the validity of these statements?
Again, I don't want to put myself in their shoes. I was not in that situation. For the officers to actually call that Mayday, they're 2 of my most squared away individuals in the department. No offense to everybody, you're all squared away, but these 2 are pretty top notch. We were at our budgeted staffing positions. We had a total of 7 on duty. We did not have a writ established at that point in time. Engine 12 was just coming into the block and assigned to stretch a hose line to the Bravo, the BC, the back of the structure, sorry, to make access into the basement there, because we knew we had a basement fire, and that was the direction of the captain who was inside. They were going to pull out and find another way in. Did staffing cause the Mayday? No, the situation caused the Mayday. The fire caused the Mayday. The environment that they were in caused the Mayday. And actions eventually led to the reasons for calling that Mayday. The staffing piece comes into play where if they were in a situation where they're hurt, injured, fell through the floor, ended up in the basement the hard way, we would not have had the staffing to effect a rescue. So was there potential for significant injury or loss of life? I would believe there would be, yes.
Okay. So, you know, just by virtue of what you've already stated, this question is covered, but I'm going to ask it anyways. You know, this is asking for an explanation of a Mayday for some of the people in the audience, which I'm sure there's only a few that don't know what a Mayday is. But,
And there's a lot that if I get it wrong will correct me.
That's right. But I think everyone's clear on what a Mayday is. It's certainly not a good situation, and a situation where firefighters may need some help with extrication.
Absolutely. It's not a situation any chief, incident commander, or firefighter wants to find themselves in. Again, Mayday situation can be anything from a lost, disoriented firefighter, a firefighter that's run out of air, a firefighter that's trapped in a building, trapped in a room, or otherwise gets injured. It can occur in a structure fire. It can occur at a hazmat. Honestly, with the situation, you could call a Mayday at a motor vehicle accident if a firefighter gets struck. So yeah, it's a situation no one wants to be in. Can they occur? Yes. I believe we've had 4 Mayday instances in my career, 3 of which I was intimately involved in to a point. But yeah, I mean, it can occur. Can it occur in larger cities with more manpower? Absolutely. But the bonus of having more manpower and more available staffing gives you a dedicated routine. I will say to the Battalion Chief Jones can correct me, when mutual aid started arriving, Meriden coming in.
Bristol, then Meriden, Carnine.
Okay. Meriden and Bristol come in, and again, as mentioned tonight, that there's a delay in game for them getting here. Meriden was initially assigned writ, and unfortunately we had to task them to relieve crews to actually continue to extinguish the fire. But yeah, so the Mayday situation is warranted enough if, you know, an incident commander or safety officer or the individual finds themselves in a, let's call it a predicament.
Okay. Okay, so the second part of the next portion of the question that was submitted was, you've answered, and it's, have there been Maydays in the past? And you say there's been 4 in your career?
I believe it's 4. This one, the Berlin Street Fire, which I was in charge of. Max on West, which was brought up today, and I believe there was one either Pondview or Charles Street area that actually Deputy Chief Doobie was involved in. It was got a little disoriented, lost his crew, but that's another one where they all 3 out of the 4 they were able to self-correct and rectify. The third, which was the incident I was in charge of, it was a single room and contents fire that when they went to go ventilate the room and move the mattress, there was a significant influx of oxygen, ended up burning 2 of my members. Luckily, they were on the first floor and one had to vacate through a window. So,
okay. So, you've stated that we had our full budgeted staff on site pretty quickly.
That is correct. The shift commanders, the 3 from Squad 5 coming from River Street, and the 3 on Truck 1 coming from Fire Headquarters.
So when the May Day went out, we had our budgeted staff on site?
On site and engaged in activity, yes, sir.
Okay. And how many total volunteer firefighters did we have at Howard? Do you have that information?
We had 3 arrive on engine 12 in 16 minutes from the time of alarm. We had another individual from Company 1 that drove their personal vehicle to the scene because there's no one else at Company 1 to drive another truck. We had an individual from Company 2 who responded initially to Station 2, realized there was no one coming right away, and he as well drove directly to the scene in his personal vehicle. So we had a total of 5.
Okay, thanks. So this is, this is not necessarily a question directly related to the operations on site, but it's kind of related to how the information kind of made its way out into the community before the official report was out. So this is a question that was also submitted. Does Southington Fire Department have an information officer and a policy around providing timely and accurate information on traditional and social media outlets?
So for the department's page, yes, we have a policy in place for public information release. We have 2 individuals that are in charge of our social media presence. All press releases with regard to that from the fire department, the Southington Fire Department's public-facing pages are approved by me and sent out by me, or not sent out by them, but those are approved by me. What an individual organization or other social media platform puts out, I have no direct control of.
Okay.
Correct.
So the next one has to do with mutual aid. There was significant mutual aid that came in for the Howard Avenue incident. And there are a lot of people in the audience, obviously, that understand what mutual aid is all about. But for the people that may not have an entire look at how it works, can you explain how mutual aid is used in Southington for fire? Please provide an overview of the aid we receive and provide. Do other communities like Southington that have combination departments use mutual aid? And in your opinion, should we continue this mutual aid program?
I don't think there's a department either represented here or the state that does not use mutual aid to some level. Our mutual aid policy is anytime a working fire protocol is declared, we bring in Meriden and Bristol directly to the scene. Primary reason for that is they are staffed. They are a staff department, and we're able to get them on the road quickly or quicker than an all-volunteer department. However, with the working fire protocol, we also do bring in Plainville and Cheshire for station coverage, as well as New Britain comes into headquarters as well, just to backfill. On the report, and it was a second alarm was transmitted for this fire. Those units come to the scene. So Bristol and Cheshire came to the scene as well as New Britain. And again, all individuals worked. We didn't have a single member from any department, ours or mutual aid, that did not work at this fire. And that brings in, again, then we have additional units that come in to backfill for additional station coverage, Berlin, Kensington, not Berlin, same thing, Kensington, Wolcott, Middletown. And as situations get worse, we reach out further. And luckily, on our second alarm assignments, Hartford County Coordinator comes in to help us manage additional incidents and incoming resources as well. So we have that working fire protocol brought in. We made that more official and more direct in 2021. And that was also aligning with the master plan to expand our working fire protocol in order to ensure that we have the proper amount of resources on scene in a timely manner to handle the need or the needs of the incident. Do we provide mutual aid? Yes, we provide mutual aid to other communities. Our primary recipients of that are probably Cheshire, not Cheshire, Plainville and Meriden. Meriden being a fully paid department, we provide mutual aid to them on a relatively frequent basis. We do provide mutual aid to Bristol and Cheshire as well, and Berlin on occasion, mostly for our tanker truck for Berlin, which Company 2 manages that. But so we've, in fiscal year 2024, we've responded out of town 30 times on mutual aid. If you look at our mutual aid requests coming in, it's been 30 times we've requested mutual aid in, but with the amount of resources, we've had a total of 53 agencies in for those mutual aid requests. So, and I think there's a part I missed.
I think you have it. I have a follow-up in that, you know, maybe you can explain that not all mutual aid goes directly to an incident scene.
No, that's correct. Like I said, with the working fire declaration or protocol, we have an engine company from Meriden, as well as they send a chief and a safety officer, and an engine company from Bristol, and a chief and a safety officer come to the scene. New Britain sends a chief, a safety officer, a chief's aide, depending on the time of day, an engine company and a ladder truck to headquarters for staffing for additional calls, as well as Plainville and Cheshire go to Station 5 and Station 3. One of the reasons why we have them on the outskirts is A, to cover our response gap for a 9 square mile town. It also keeps them as a all volunteer department who, you know, sometimes they face their own challenges as well. Keeps them on their town lines in case they have to leave. So.
Okay. So I have another question that's more of a financial question that I think I'm gonna, there's quite a bit to it. I think I'm gonna submit it to you, so, because I'm sure you don't have all the data here. It's, you know, it's obviously relates to Howard, because there were statements out there in the public that we went there understaffed. So, you know, the last thing I have from the submitted questions are, you know, do you have any, if you have any recommendations for the council or the Board of Finance as to how it relates to the Howard Ave incident? They'd like to hear it, whether you want to talk about it now or it's something
I mean, I'll
you
talk
want to
about it
reach
now.
out to them with.
I mean, everything's on the news, so I'm trying not to be Eric. So, and those that know me will know that. A recommendation, I mean, you've heard it here. My goal, I'll be perfectly honest, in my tenure as chief, do I think I'll see it in my tenure as chief? I don't know. I would love to say yes. Would it be to have 3 stations staffed 24/7 with career firefighters and still rely and bolster up our volunteers at Company 1 and Company 2? We are reliant on them. We will continue to be reliant on them while I'm chief. They're not going away. I mean, our ranks are dwindling. When I started in 1999, we had about 120. We're down to 34 on the books, 25 interior qualified. We have a bunch of probationary members that are going through training. But at a minimum, I believe, you know, in my professional opinion, this town should have 3 stations staffed 24/7 to handle our call volume. We were slight increase this year from 2539 last year to 2619, I believe is the number. I'd have to double check that. Are there financial implications in that? Yes. It comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of salary and benefits. But again, so I think somebody else here mentioned it. You know, what's the cost if we aren't properly staffed, properly funded, and the tertiary liability should an incident adversely affect someone in our community or one of our members.
Okay. Anyone on the commission have any questions related to the Howard Ave incident?
Chief, I had a question. Just because I haven't seen the report, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, it's partially done. The investigation piece isn't out, but I'll forward it out to the rest of the.
Right, yeah.
So the report's not out?
I forwarded the initial draft report to the chairman today. It was just done today. The incident commander just wrapped it up today after reviewing tapes and doing an after-action review. The investigation piece is almost complete, and that completes the report.
That's okay.
once
I
it's
just heard, I'm sorry to interrupt,
That's
but I
great.
just heard that it came, that we received it, but we did not receive it yet.
I sent it directly to the chair first, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Chief, I was just wondering, because a lot of the talk, at least, you know, at least what I observed, some of the stuff on social media and some of the guys talking tonight, spoke about the Mayday, you know, the seriousness, and obviously a lot of the guys would know me as, you know, having served with the Southington Volunteer Fire Department in the past, so I understand, you know, how grave a Mayday is and how serious it is. My question is, would staffing have changed it? Would extra staffing have changed it at the time? Because that seems to be the
Again, I
point
don't.
that was trying to be
You know, I think I
made.
mentioned it earlier. I don't believe in my opinion, staffing did not create the mayday. It was a situation and the environment these individuals were in, which can happen on a daily basis. Again, it would be the staffing piece that if they were unable to self-rescue,
Right.
we had no one on scene in order to effect a rescue. They would have been on their own. They came out relatively low on air. You know, again, I did two very, very solid firemen who I personally saw shook up and affected by the incident. Still are, but they're on duty serving the community. It's the staffing piece of having enough people on scene in order to have that dedicated RIT team, or when that situation happens, crews can continue to fight the fire, continue to help mitigate the incident, because, you know, as we all say in the fire service world, you put the fire out, things get better. You can't stop those operations while you're trying to effect a rescue. So we, you know, at this incident, we had my dedicated pump operator and my dedicated aerial operator quickly trying to finish getting dressed in order to be of assistance at this, which means I would have left those two pieces of apparatus without operators on them. And if the pump fails while we're fighting fire, as you would probably know, that's a bad thing. So, I mean, it was not the cause of the mayday, but it could have definitely had an impact if they weren't able to self-rescue.
A follow-up question, could it have been avoided?
Can they always be avoided? Yeah, I mean, by staying outside the building the entire time and just lobbing water.
But it also seems like the hose was removed before the firefighters.
Yeah, again, like I said, that was a miscommunication piece. You know, the communication came from the captain. And correct me if I'm wrong, please. You know, let's back this line out and try and get to it from a different way. There was, you know, it was a condensed house, very tight, weird layout. And it just, the hose got removed from the structure quicker than they anticipated, because there was a lot of hose in there. So in order for them to try and follow that hose out with the loops in place, again, it was just, okay, let's get it out and attack it from a different direction. And that kind of left them in the lurch.
Thank you, Chief.
Is that right? Okay, thanks.
Anything else from the commission? Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming.